I think we had a very good two-day meeting. I would believe that so it would be an extra 100% from where we are now. And I believe that that is effectively off the table. I'm not going to get ahead of the two leaders who will be meeting in Korea on Thursday, but I can tell you we had a very good 2 days. So I would expect that the threat of the 100% has gone away, as has the threat of the immediate imposition of the Chinese initiating a worldwide export control regime.
That export control on rare earths, which is used in all sorts of electronics and automobiles, that'll be lifted?
Well, it was never imposed. So they threatened to impose it in December, and President Trump, to give me and the trade team leverage, decided that it would be a good idea for him to threaten 100% additional tariff, and it did give us a great deal of leverage. President Trump's very good at creating leverage for us. This is the fifth meeting that we've had with the Chinese. My Chinese counterpart is the Vice Premier, Ho Feng. So we had a very good 2 days. We discussed a wide variety of issues, from the rare earth magnets to trade, to substantial purchases of American agricultural products, to the Chinese helping us in this fentanyl crisis that we have in the U.S.
President Trump had threatened to impose an additional 100% tariffs on China on November 1st if Beijing goes forward with a plan to put restrictions on rare earth minerals, as you know. If China refuses to pull back those restrictions, Mr. Secretary, can you confirm that President Trump will, in fact, impose those 100% tariffs against China?
Well, Kristen, I think that's old news. President Trump gave me a great deal of negotiating leverage with the threat of the 100% tariffs on November 1st, and I believe we've reached a very substantial framework that will avoid that and allow us to discuss many other things with the Chinese. I think we will be able to discuss them helping us get this terrible fentanyl crisis under control. I think we are going to be able to discuss substantial soybean and ag purchases for our American farmers. I think we are going to be able to discuss more balanced trade. And I'm not going to get ahead of the two leaders, but I think that they will also be discussing President Trump's global peace plan that he's been so successful at, both here in Asia, the Middle East, and now he's looking to Ukraine, Russia.
Mr. Secretary, you said a couple of significant things. It sounds like you're saying you are not anticipating a 100% tariff against China on November 1st, and seems like you're saying that China is poised to purchase soybeans to open up those markets again?
I believe that we have the framework for the two leaders to have a very productive meeting for both sides, and I think it will be fantastic for U.S. citizens, for U.S. farmers, and for our country in general.
Okay, but you're not anticipating the 100% tariffs?
No, I'm not, and I'm also anticipating that we will get some kind of a deferral on the rare earth export controls that the Chinese had discussed.
Okay.
But again, this will all be, my counterpart, the Vice Premier, and I have set the framework, and it will be up to the two leaders to discuss the final term. So this was the fifth meeting that I've had with my Chinese counterpart, the Vice Premier, Ho Feng, and we covered a wide range of issues, and I think we've reached a substantial framework for the two leaders who will meet in Korea next Thursday. So, on the table, the president had given me maximum leverage when he threatened 100% tariffs if the Chinese imposed their rare earth global export controls. So I think we have averted that, so that the tariffs will be averted. And we have a regular quarterly meeting with the Chinese. It was scheduled for November 10th or before November 10th. I don't think we will have to have that. So we have been rolling the tariffs quarterly. So we agreed on that. We also agreed on substantial agriculture purchases for U.S. farmers. We agreed that the Chinese would begin to help us with the precursor chemicals for this terrible fentanyl epidemic that's ravaging our country. So I would say that it was a very good meeting overall.
And of course, it's up to President Trump. But what kind of concessions were made, especially on these rare earth minerals?
I'm not sure. What you meant is they had threatened to put a global export licensing regime, and I believe that they are going to delay that for a year while they re-examine it.
This will be the first time that President Trump has met President Xi. He says they have a very good relation, but we've also seen him say that about President Putin, and it didn't go so well. Why are you confident this will go better?
Well, this isn't the first time they met. This is the first time they met in his second term. And I think the purpose of the meeting for the past 2 days between myself and the vice premier was to make sure that they have a successful meeting. And based on this substantial framework from the past 2 days, I think that this could be a fantastic meeting between the two leaders. And they do have a very good relationship. It's based on mutual respect. We're the two largest economies and the two most powerful countries in the world. I've been in the Oval when the president is on phone calls with President Xi, and they show each other great respect. They iron out their differences, but I think that we have managed to pre-game a lot of that in advance here in Kuala Lumpur. And of course, the meeting on Thursday will be at the APEC summit in Korea.
The president has also said he does want our farmers to be taken care of. You did mention that China has been boycotting American soybeans, and American farmers have really suffered. Do you see a real light at the end of the tunnel there? They may allow soybeans again?
Martha, in case you don't know it, I'm actually a soybean farmer, so I have felt this pain too. And there are a couple of things happening here. One, the Chinese have substantially dropped their purchases to almost zero, so they unfortunately have been using American farmers who are amongst President Trump's biggest supporters. I think he had more than 90% support. And then this was one of the biggest crops in 20 or 30 years, so it was a perfect storm. But I think we have addressed the farmers' concerns, and I'm not going to get ahead of the president, but I believe when the announcement of the deal with China is made public, that our soybean farmers will feel very good about what's going on, both for this season and the coming seasons for several years.
On the purchases of American goods, American farmers have been hit hard by China's boycott of American soybeans that went into place after the tariff war began here. The administration's pumping at least $3 billion in financial aid to farmers to help make them whole, or at least offset the pain. Can farmers expect to sell their soybeans to China again, and when?
Margaret, I'm not going to give you the details here, but I can tell you that the soybean farmers are going to be extremely happy with this deal for this year and for the coming years.
A few weeks ago, there was a photographer who snapped a photo of you texting with the agricultural secretary about this. She indicated concern about the unintended damage to American farmers from the U.S. financial lifeline being given to Argentina, because that country was able to sell more to China. That gave Beijing leverage over the United States. Is that leverage still a problem today?
Well, first of all, that the text from Secretary Rollins was talking about a purchase of soybeans that the Chinese did, and Margaret, those soybeans were always going to get purchased. They just did it at a time when the Argentines had lifted their export taxes. So, you know, those soybeans were always going to be on the market. It's a global market. The three leading suppliers are Brazil, Argentina, and the U.S. And I believe that we have brought the market back into equilibrium. And I believe that the Chinese will be making substantial purchases again.
So you dispute the idea that America hurt itself by giving this $20 billion lifeline to Argentina. Can you guarantee Americans they'll be made whole on that?
Margaret, I can tell you that the Exchange Stabilization Fund has never lost money. It will not lose money this time. And we are not giving money to Argentina. It is a swap line, which the U.S. has done many times in the past, and we've never lost money.
On the Chinese, I saw that you mentioned TikTok was discussed. Are the details of the president's executive order released in September, are those finalized? Has China agreed to give up control of the algorithm that determines what users see?
Margaret, we reached a final deal on TikTok. We'd reached one in Madrid, and I believe that as of today, all the details are ironed out, and that will be for the two leaders to consummate that transaction on Thursday in Korea.
Can you tell us any details of that transaction?
Margaret, I'm not part of the commercial side of the transaction. My remit was to get the Chinese to agree to approve the transaction, and I believe we successfully accomplished that over the past 2 days.
Over the past 2 days, did the U.S. make any concessions here beyond what we discussed with the tariffs? Are you dropping restrictions on exports of, for example, semiconductor chips or restrictions on Chinese investment in the United States?
There have been no changes in our export controls.
When Presidents Xi and Trump are able to speak on Thursday, do you believe that the president's position here, his ability to negotiate a deal with China, is going to be hurt by the fact that he's been unable to get a deal here at home to reopen the U.S. government?
Well, look, I don't think it's going to hurt. It's a global embarrassment what these Democratic senators are doing, keeping the government shut down. I mean, look at the numbers. It's 52-3, 52 Republican senators, 3 Democratic senators have come across the line. So I just think it's an embarrassment. Doesn't affect his ability on the international stage. Now, what it does affect, it's starting to affect the economy. It's starting to slow down air traffic. And I would urge moderate Democrats to be heroes, come across the aisle like they did in the spring and pass a clean CR.
Continuing resolution just to fund the government without any add-ons. Does that mean when the president comes back to the United States, he's going to summon congressional leaders to the White House to end what you call the global embarrassment?
I don't know what good it does to summon them to the White House. You know, this is a Democratic-led boycott, and you know, I'm just not sure what they're doing. What's changed between now and March, other than Chuck Schumer's poll numbers? And you know, I think Hakeem Jeffries is now going to be primaried from the left, and I didn't think there was a lot of room over there. So both of them are worried about their primaries and not the American people, not the government employees, not our military employees. Because we were able to pay the military employees from excess funds at the Pentagon middle of this month. I think we'll be able to pay them beginning in November. But by November 15th, our troops and service members who are willing to risk their lives aren't going to be able to get paid. What an embarrassment.
Mr. Secretary, before I let you go, I want to ask you, the U.S. sanctioned Russia's top oil and gas companies this past week. But Vladimir Putin's envoy, who is here in the United States, Kirill Dmitriev, I know you know him, said the sanctions will have, quote, absolutely no effect on Russia's economy. They will simply lead to higher prices at gas stations in the United States. Is Dmitriev wrong? And when will Russia actually feel the pain?
Well, I think Russia is going to feel the pain immediately. I can tell you that we've already seen India has done a complete halt of Russian oil purchases. Many of the Chinese refineries they have stopped. And, you know, Margaret, are you really going to publish what a Russian propagandist says? I mean, what else is he going to say? That, oh, it's going to be terrible and it's going to bring Putin to the table? Of course. The Russian economy is a wartime economy. Growth is virtually zero. Inflation, I believe, is over 20%. Everything we do is going to bring Putin to the table. You know, it's oil that funds the Russian war machine, and I think we can make a substantial dent in his profits.
I understood you had some competing noise there, but just to be clear, Dmitriev is in the United States because sanctions were lifted on him to conduct meetings here, including with President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff. When you say he's a propagandist, do you mean that we shouldn't listen to anything he says?
What do you think is going to happen to him if he goes back home and says, what if he had said on TV, this is terrible, President Trump just did the right thing, this is a maximum pressure campaign that's going to work? Margaret, what's he going to say? Of course he's going to say this. If you go through and look at every Russian talking point, they seem to use the word, we have immunized the economy against this. Well, they haven't immunized the economy. Oil earnings are down 20% year over year. I would suspect that this could take them down another 20 or 30%. So, again, that President Trump was criticized for not doing enough. He takes this bold maneuver, and then you're quoting a Russian propagandist.
All right. We'll leave it there with you, Mr. Secretary. I know you've had a long day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.